it's a really hard thing that it's trying to solve for and engineer for. The design choice was extremely bold, but I feel now we have finally fulfilled on that promise. We're coming to Mainnet with an incredibly fast chain that can support 10,000 transactions per second, a globally distributed validator set, sub-second finality, so 400 millisecond block times, 800 millisecond finality, and a hell of a community and ecosystem that will go live on day one. So that's launching. I don't know when you guys will launch this podcast, but this is launching within the month, and it's pretty exciting.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Fully Diluted. I'm your host, Dylan Bane of the Enterprise Research Team, along with Matthew Nay. We're joined today by intern and intern bra at Monad. Obviously, lots of news and hype about the Monad TGE and airdrop. We've brought him on to hear more about what's actually happening and for everyone to remember what's really the vision for Monad and value prop as we get closer to Mainnet. Without further ado, let both of you intro just your role at Monad and what you've been up to.
Cool. Yeah, appreciate you guys having us on. I'm Kevin. I'm head of growth at Monad. Have been working on Monad for just under 3 years now. Really deal with anything that's public facing around Monad. So anything marketing, brand related. When we did a fundraise, I worked on that. So yeah, jack of all trades. And with that, I'll pass it to Jack.
Nice. Yeah, I'm Jack. I've been working at Mainnet for a little under 2.5 years now. Also on the growth team, mainly on the main Mainnet X account, but then also working with eco teams on their go-to-market strategies and co-marketing stuff.
Nice,
Very cool.
Nice. This is pretty cool for me because Jack's the one who crypto pilled me, and then obviously I've known Kevin for 3 or 4 years too, and just learning more about and being on the industry. So this is cool getting on the podcast and talking about Monad launch. We're finally here, so pretty excited. But let's walk it back to kind of like that 3 years ago, Kevin, and when you decided to join Monad. You were at CMS and making famous for all the memes and everything on CT and everything. Why Monad? I know that everyone's kind of gets that question, and then Jack too. Why did you decide to follow in his footsteps and come help develop this new chain?
Yeah. So I think maybe just like why Monad or what Monad is. To me, there are two really important things in crypto. You have decentralization and you have scalability. And I think that Monad has the best technology to allow both of these things to coexist in crypto. So for a very long time, Solana has been my favorite chain. Ethereum is more decentralized, but it's really slow. Solana is pretty fast and pretty decentralized, so I like that trade-off more. When I heard about Monad, I kind of realized like, oh shit, like this is going to be more decentralized and even faster than Solana. And then take all of that, slap on top the fact that it is EVM compatible, so you can bootstrap an ecosystem, TVL, user base immediately. And it was just a no-brainer, right? This is clearly what the future of crypto looks like to me. And so as soon as I learned about it, I just really wanted to be a part of it. Early on, invested. And then when I heard that they were looking for their first non-engineer person to come help out on the team, I was very excited at the opportunity. So that's my why Monad. Like I said, that was close to 3 years ago. Monad itself has been under research and development for almost 4 years. And the reason we're doing the podcast today is because it's about to launch. It's got to be a record. Someone can fact check me, but there's no way a chain has taken longer to get to Mainnet than Monad. There's a couple good reasons for that, right? It's a really hard thing that it's trying to solve for and engineer for. The design choice was extremely bold, but I feel now we have finally fulfilled on that promise. We're coming to Mainnet with an incredibly fast chain that can support 10,000 transactions per second, a globally distributed validator set, sub-second finality, so 400 millisecond block times, 800 millisecond finality, and a hell of a community and ecosystem that will go live on day one. So that's launching. I don't know when you guys will launch this podcast, but this is launching within the month, and it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think this will be out next week. But so yeah, hopefully you'll be able to listen to this when Mainnet comes out, and once we get to the ecosystem later, you'll have a little cheat sheet on what to do. Jack, same question. When I met you, it was over at college. Kind of, you were the Delphi intern, and then what was your transition from Delphi to Monad look like?
Yeah, for sure. So honestly, Delphi was a great place to start because I mean, I'm sure as you guys know Messari, but you just get to research everything. Like your whole job is learn about cool new tech. So my first report I ever did for Delphi was on Ethereum, like going into the merge, and I really thought it was going to make stuff way better for Ethereum, and was like pretty excited about L2s. And then I had a Cosmos phase, which ended pretty dark. Yeah, we don't have to talk about that one. But from Cosmos, then I started kind of exploring the Alt L1s, and I really liked Solana and Avalanche for a while for similar reasons to what Kevin mentioned, right? Of its performance and decentralization. You're not really choosing one side of the trade-off, but I honestly was like too poor to use Ethereum at like the peak of the 21 cycle. Like gas fees were just so high, and I was playing with like a few $1,000s to the point that I couldn't use it anymore. So I branched out and started using Solana, but the early days of Solana, you know, the tooling wasn't there, wallets were iffy. The what was the degen apes mint was like my first experience using Solana, and the candy machine just kept breaking. So I was definitely there looking at like, okay, stuff can still get faster and smoother, and like clearly the decentralization side is something people can compromise to do that, but you kind of want both. Like that's the real goal here. So after a couple years at Delphi and Kevin had started talking to the Monad team, I just started doing a ton of research on it and then researching Keone. And I was like, this is the most impressive, smart MIT person I've seen. Like if anyone can build a fast chain, it's probably this guy. And then, yeah, me and Kevin joined, and I joined a few months later, and kind of the rest is history.
Very cool. It'd be helpful to walk us through a little deeper just what truly makes Monad unique. So I think a lot of people see EVM, very fast chain, parallel executions, but could you walk us through why that really matters, especially like the state of crypto today? What does that unlock?
Yeah, I have a general frame of most people are underweight how important the technology actually is. And it's just kind of true across the board. Like it's not everyone, but on average the like mean opinion is too underexposed to the actual technology itself. And so like if we take that as a base assumption, then why is Monad important? Like it becomes very, very clear, right? Like crypto is basically not important as a general asset class if it can be censored. If there is a single controlling entity, then that means that crypto can be censored. And so if you look at like a single sequencer L2 or an L1 with all of the validators co-located in one geographic location that like a government raid could take over, where like it's just not, you know, it's like a sheep in wolves clothing, honestly. Like it's basically just the exact same traditional system that we have had to date. And so for me, for something to be legitimately useful to society, it must be censorship resistant. And so like the best way that we know how to do that is decentralization. A lot of people think of decentralization as like the end, like you need it to be decentralized. It's actually not true at all. The only reason decentralization is important in the first place is so that you get the property of censorship resistance. So censorship resistance is very important. And the reason that I start with that is because then I want to say that scale is very important for crypto now. But you have to start with censorship resistance and then go to scale. And so at the moment, I would say Solana and to some extent Avalanche are fairly censorship resistant. Solana is certainly censorship resistant, and they're quite fast. They're fast enough to unlock you don't have to use an AMM. You know, AMMs were created for Ethereum layer 1. There was no efficient way to do swaps, so AMMs like have pretty shitty execution relative to like any, or can we swear on this? Sorry.
Totally. Totally.
The AMMs have pretty shitty execution, like relative to literally any trading experience in the entire world. Like it's similar to if you go to a foreign country and you like hit their ATM to do like a cash swap, and they just like eat you with like 8% fees. And you're like, this is an abomination. And that's literally what all of decentralized finance was built on for many years. So AMMs are quite inefficient. If being able to swap tokens is one of the key reasons that crypto is important, or kind of one of the key functions of crypto, something that Mainnet introduces is a central limit order book on a decentralized layer 1 blockchain. You need to have very high throughput and have very low fees for a central limit order book to actually be an efficient means of swapping. And an easy way to understand why that is if you think about this from a market maker's point of view. For a central limit order book to like be a good venue for trading, the fees have to be very low because they're going to send, like, the higher the fees are, the less orders they can send and cancel every second. And so take the opposite, the lower the fees are, the more orders that they can send and cancel. So they can get more accurate with their pricing, which allows for the execution on the user side to actually be a lot better. So that's just one example. Another one that's like pretty easy to think about is like, all right, Mainnet allows for 10,000 transactions per second-ish. Visa and MasterCard combine for about 3,500 transactions per second. Solana can handle about like 2,000 transactions per second right now. So like if you wanted to put Visa and MasterCard on chain, which like stablecoins, everyone is very excited about, payments, this is the next big thing. It's the least sexy, highest valuation thing that exists in crypto. It actually could not be supported on any censorship-resistant network besides Mainnet. So like that is an enormous unlock for society at large. There are a ton of other examples, but like, I've been talking for a little bit, so we'll just give those two. So I think, yeah, the base foundation is to be censorship-resistant. The way that you get there is via decentralization, having a large number of distributed, or have a large number of validators that are distributed across the globe. And then on top of that, once you allow for scale and adoption, that's when you can actually bring crypto to the masses. So I think mine is the closest thing to fulfilling that promise that I know of in the space, at least.
Yeah, you kind of answered my my next question about like, what do you say to people when they say like, do we have enough block space? And you kind of answered that question. So I'll frame it a little differently. And like when people say, well, we already have a sufficient perp dex with Hyperliquid, there's going to be some of these L2s that like push the performance to the max. And I guess the question now is more like, I'm on your side too. Like, when is decentralization kind of going to matter again? I guess is like the right way to phrase this question. When people say, oh, you can just build an app chain. Oh, you could just build this like super high performant L2 that just pushes the EVM to its max. Like, what do you think? Like, I hope it's not this case, but obviously like a Black Swan event could kind of push that. Is there any like better ways that like decentralization kind of comes more into higher that priority list for some people? Because like we are seeing kind of like, I guess the meta so far this cycle is decentralization hasn't mattered too much for users, and like as long as you get that like composability, like the no KYC, obviously there's a whole like regulatory arbitrage thing that like I think is leading that forefront. But when do you think that both that the decentralization factor kind of catches up to that?
Yeah, so maybe a good way for people to think about this that do question that is like, the only reason crypto exists is because Bitcoin exists. And the only reason that Bitcoin has value is because it is a decentralized ledger that people cannot go in, like one single entity can't go in and corrupt and ruin. So like there is no crypto without decentralization. All of the value of the entire industry goes to zero without decentralization. Yeah, if we accept that framing, and then Jack, something's going on in your room. If you
yeah, they just, the construction guys are back.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Question is, why does decentralization matter right now?
Or like, when do you think it'll when do you think people will like start to care about that again?
Gotcha. We'll edit for flow.
Cool. Yeah, I would say like my general thoughts on decentralization is that it's kind of annoying and a hindrance until it's the most important thing in the world. It's kind of like insurance in that regard. Like, yeah, you pay it every month that you don't need it, and you're like, this is kind of annoying. I wish I didn't have to pay for this, until like that extreme thing happens, in which case, everything is over if you did not have the insurance. And maybe to give an example of this, the reason that Bitcoin is important is because nobody can change it, nobody can corrupt it. It is fully decentralized. It will live on, and nobody it is a very set, fixed monetary policy. And literally the thesis behind it is, yeah, for right now, the US dollar is fine. Fiat currencies are fine. They generally work. Eventually, they're going to blow up, and the world will need this so that extreme pandemonium doesn't break out and like ruin everything. So like it's a better form of money. I think that centralized systems in crypto are very similar to fiat, or they have a lot of the same characteristics of like, yeah, it's generally fine and works well right now until these extreme things happen, in which case everything blows up. And I think the reason that they're the same is like eventually those extreme things will happen. And so only the decentralized chains or like, you know, chains with the property of censorship resistance will actually survive that. And maybe for like a, you know, here is an example. Say there was an L2 that existed, ran on a centralized sequencer, and that centralized sequencer was in Canada. 2 years ago, when there was like the trucker protests, all of their bank accounts were frozen, right? One entity, the Canadian government, was able to say, okay, ruin this person financially because they disagree with our politics or whatever thing we're trying to enforce. If you had crypto and now everyone feels like they can transact permissionlessly all across the world, but that centralized sequencer is running in Canada, you could still do the same thing, right? The Canadian government could go in, seize it, and essentially like a nation state could force the chain itself to have different readings, right? You could actually go in and freeze other people's accounts. That clearly does not have any of the properties that we're talking about when we were saying that crypto is important for the world. There's a lot of other examples where like clearly North Korea is very active in hacking and trying to steal funds in the crypto space. Say North Korea got a ton of funds on a specific L2, and then the US government was like, this is becoming a national security threat. And like the US government went in to try to shut something down. Like they're pretty good at inflicting their will via military power. And so they would be able to do that. And so I think like it's basically useless to have crypto that is not sufficiently decentralized in the long term, at least, because you end up with the exact same properties of the systems that like we are kind of trying to escape via crypto.
Matt, you want to ask?
What's interesting, I guess, like going over to like the launch of Monad and like the new L1 and like comparing it to other new launches that we've seen, right? Like I think you could probably fairly say most new L1 launches haven't been successful. You see like Barachain is a pretty prime example of that in the last year. But I think what's interesting with you guys and what I'm also telling people as I'm pitching Monad is I'm a big fan is I think it's going to be, it's the only one I can remember where you're going to have all these like familiar apps from L1 and like the rest of the EVM landscape that like you're going to know what to do with day one. Like you're not going to have to find the new DEX, the new perp DEX, the NFT, the liquid staking. Like you already know a lot of those examples. I mean, you just saw Curve announce that they're going to be Monad day one, USDC, Uniswap, all the apps you know and love from EVM. What do you think that's going to be a pretty big game changer? I think it will be because you're going to be able to know what you're doing day one, and then like also it allows you to go and explore all these other apps pretty comfortably because you know you can at least do something when you're there day one.
Jack, I'll let you.
I can hop in. I think the construction is stopped for the time being. Yeah, I mean, I think it's huge because, like you said, everyone knows these apps. They know how to use standard traditional DeFi. So that whole ecosystem's there from day one. If you want to just come over and do some swaps, you're lending, you're borrowing, it's a familiar experience. You know the apps. They're just way faster and cheaper. So that alone is like a pretty good start to an ecosystem. And then you have all this like, I don't know, this throughput removes the constraints from what you can build for a lot of different types of apps. So if you want to just go use the AMM, like you can use Uniswap, but if you want to go trade on a club and like try the new shiny thing, there's a few different options for you. I think that goes across a wide set of apps where you can build more consumer facing things that would otherwise get crippled by high fees. So it's kind of a barbell approach to building an eco. It's all the traditional stuff that you need. You have the stable coins, you have payment apps, you have DeFi, and then there's going to be this whole side of new exciting things to try out as well.
Yeah, what are you excited about that's new on Monad?
On the DeFi side, I think Kuru, just spot Clob, is great. You can launch coins there as well. Purple and Drake are fully on-chain perp stexes, which, again, perp stex meta kind of goes crazy, but most of them aren't actually fully on-chain. We kind of already covered that, but both of those are like fully everything lives on-chain. A recent announcement that I actually didn't know was happening, but is pretty cool, is Blockstreet is bringing stonks on-chain, which everyone loves. Me and Kevin have talked for a while of, I think perps on stonks is like pretty killer use case for numerous reasons, but we'll have that. There's a bunch of betting apps that I'm excited about just because, I watch Red Zone on Sundays and place a bunch of football bets. But Rare Bet Sports gives you prediction market parlays on players. And then Lever Bet is actually a levered prediction market on sports betting, which I think opens up a lot of cool ways to bet. DeFi side, I met the Moo Digital guys in Singapore about a month ago, and they're super sharp. I think Patrick is a really well-connected founder, but they're basically tapped into the entire like Asian bond and yield market. So I think it's like 10 to 15% yield on stables through like real world asset Asian bonds. There's a cool post from 42 today. They're a decentralized swarm inference protocol, but they posted a bunch of their benchmarks and they actually outperform like GPT, Gemini, a bunch of other big LLMs on most of the major benchmarks. So I'm excited to see what they can do. I can let Kevin hop in. I have a bunch more if we want to keep going, but those are off the top of my mind.
Yeah, I'm looking for.
Oh, you went out for a second, Kevin.
Yeah, your mic's gone.
I said I'm looking for the list of Monad Momentum recipients, Jack. Do you have that somewhere?
I do, but that's not public yet.
Well, it will be by the time this comes. Can you send it to me?
Yeah, I'll send it.
Yeah, you want to speak about Monad Momentum and what that's going to be? Because, this will come out next Thursday,
Yeah.
so...
Yeah, so, I mean, Monad Momentum is basically in a user incentives program. So upon mainnet launch, there are going to be tons of apps that are going live. Like this will be by far the largest day one ecosystem that has ever existed for any blockchain. As a part of that, very large number of teams applied to Monad Momentum in a way to basically get their user acquisition strategy in front of the team. And then from our side, the Monad Foundation will look to add incentives to the teams that had really good proposals for how they're going to incentivize usage on day one and month one of mainnet. So basically it just answers the question like, hey, I generally have heard about Monad. I'm kind of excited about it. Like, what should I try out early on? Like, go test out the Monad Momentum recipients. One, because they're really good teams. Like, I personally know every single team on there. Two, there's user incentives for you to go do it anyway. So, like, you may as well get the boosted rewards on that side. I'm trying to see if there are any that Jack did not shout out. Very excited for Omnia. The Sappy Seals game. Wob is an awesome founder, so I'm excited to see what he has cooking. Lumitera as well on the gaming front, I think will do incredibly well. They've been, certainly leading the pack. But yeah, they will all be on the page one of mainnet upon mainnet day, so it should be right in front of you when you go to check out Monad mainnet. Exactly what apps will be interesting to check out right away.
Yeah, maybe you'll see that through maybe an updated eco map from me as well with all the momentum winners. And I guess as you guys are growing this community, like what was the toughest part? Growing the teams that are building, the like hype and the Discord warriors and like everyone getting involved and just making all the memes and all the mascots that you guys have, or was the toughest part like convincing legacy apps or like the Phantoms, the Uniswaps to kind of come over and support day one? I know that's like 3 different balls you're juggling at once. Like, what was the toughest one to kind of convince, and what was maybe surprisingly pretty easy to kind of get over and get on board the Monad mission?
Yeah, the sequence for which you go after these is very important, and I would almost say that it's like the most important thing to get right when you're first building. Like most people, if you ask them what does a successful L1 look like, there's a thriving ecosystem. A bunch of people use it. They might not even know they're using that L1 under the hood. It had like a lot of people know about it. Like there's a lot of characteristics, and you basically have to reverse engineer how to get there from literally zero. Like when I first started talking to Keone, there was no Twitter account. There's no Discord. Like how do you go from literally nothing to a thriving ecosystem? And one thing which generally I think has worked very well for us, maybe Jack has the opposite point of view. I don't know if he'd go through it on the pod, but like one thing that I would encourage teams to do is to capture attention. I have a working theory that you can essentially use attention as a currency that you can trade for anything else that you need to achieve your goals. And so we start from attention, which is marketing and community, as community also fuels kind of your marketing efforts. And then once you get attention, 2 things are true. One, like by definition, more people know about Monad, more people know about you. And then two, they want attention for themselves. And so they go, I know about Monad, they have attention. How do we get some? And then from there on, it's literally a game of just having 1,000 conversations with a bunch of people and like making that small trade over and over again while like then their community is now becoming yours. And then that creates more attention and more people know about it. And it is just a gigantic snowball that essentially you use over and over to like trade up and get better teams, bigger names, and grow the eco from there. So it's not perfect, but I do think like especially now, like the currency of the internet isn't time and it's not even necessarily money, but it is attention. And for an internet native company, like that I think was key for the vast majority of ecosystem development, getting this in front of investors early on so that we could actually like fund the effort and hire engineers to build out the chain the way that it should be built, attracting top talents, giving grants to teams that are really good but need funding and want to build in the ecosystem. Like everything is essentially downstream from that. So I think like how do you start from that from zero? You basically get a bunch of people like me and Jack and Tunes and John W. H. Kidd and Bill Monday to just like start making noise on the internet and then you go from there. But yeah, everyone's got to start somewhere. So find a really good team, start snowballing, and then just look to keep trading upstream.
Jack, I guess same question to you, because you like kind of when did you take over the socials and kind of like what was that growth story and what are we sitting at now for followers on X and like what was the bread and butter there, cooking up memes and getting the Monad word out there?
Yeah, I mean, well, when I took over is like 15,000 followers, I think. We're up to like
160. It was 60K.
No chance. I'll pull up my intern presentation. I made a chart. I'm pretty sure. I mean, maybe we were doing it together from like 15 to 60, but
that's fair.
Around then. Yeah, it was a pretty different time because that was kind of like the depths of the bear market. So I think like your strategies at different times function differently. So back then it was like people were looking for something new to believe in. Like there was actually a lot of people that do care about, like anyone that was still around at that point wanted to find cool new tech and like what's going to be the next big thing. I still believe in the industry when it comes back. Like how can I position to find like the next big opportunity? And so like the tech itself has a great value prop. We started doing a lot of explainers that weren't just, here's a blog post on our white paper. Like we would basically write threads like breaking down each part of the tech for dummies, and a lot of people liked them. Like they could actually understand in like pretty simple terms why parallel execution is like adding lanes to a highway instead of using a single road, right? So that was a lot of the early side, was like spreading the word about the tech in very simple terms. And that built like a pretty good initial group of believers. My one amendment to Kevin's point, I would say attention matters and is cheap, but connection is super valuable. So it wasn't just people heard about us and were like keeping an eye on us. There was a lot of people that really believed in it and spend a lot of time within the community. So that leads to people making art and the people playing poker together. And like, I don't know, Quantico does market research all day long, finds cool new projects. Like that community side of it is much more valuable because all the people are like intertwined into the project team and like have specific interests of stuff they want to work on. So that's like really where the snowball effect started, in my opinion, is like everyone's like, who is this crazy community of people that like are actually pretty smart and like the tech that doesn't even exist yet? And quick shout out to them for sticking around for 3 years, because that's pretty incredible. But yeah, so that like really gets the ball rolling. And then there was definitely like a middle ground from, I don't know, let's just say like 6 months ago to 18 months ago, where there was definitely some edge in just being like CT native shit posters and having fun off the main account. Most people hit a level where it's like, all right, we're doing corporate comms now. Like we have grown too much. We're going to abandon the thing that got us here and become a corporate announcements account. And we kind of just resisted that and like kept having fun on Twitter. And that's how you keep getting more eyes, right? Like if we just started posting blogs and announcements 8 months ago and didn't do anything else, like nobody would really be thinking about us anymore. It's the fact that it's like, this is a really serious tech company and they're like memeing their founder off main. Like it shows a little bit, you get the culture, which makes it more welcoming to other people. And now that we're actually getting really close to TGE, Mainnet, there's a lot of eyes on us, and everything we say is like, now it's a little more buttoned up. We haven't gone as crazy, but given that background, it's still like, if we do something silly or fun, it gets a lot of attention because it's pretty unexpected. And I think generally we like to do things a little bit differently.
Yeah, I mean, on that, obviously, I have the box reveals with the airdrop reveal. Seeing a golden ticket. Anything there? Like, can we expect anything?
Yeah. Do not lose your ticket. It is the most important thing between now and mainnet. Do not lose your ticket, and you will be good.
Okay.
Yeah, we got the golden ticket. I think TGE, or like we're getting the countdown ends November 3rd, I think is correct on the claim page. But let's say we're 3 to 6 months out from there, whenever TGE is, if it's November 3rd or whenever. If you want to announce it here, we wouldn't stop you. But in 3 to 6 months out, like, what does a successful launch look like for you guys? Like, what metrics are you going to be following? Is it like, are you going to be looking at like Monad specific app traction versus like legacy EVM apps? Like, what is a successful launch? Obviously, like, price may go into that, but maybe not. What are some other metrics besides just price that you guys are going to be tracking and makes it successful in your eyes?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the best way to answer it is something that Keone touts pretty often internally, which is like on-chain GDP. Like, that is actually kind of the key thing that you want to focus on. Like, that's the North Star. Because GDP, it takes into account a lot of things, right? If you think about like the GDP of the US, there's kind of like, really 3 key verticals that make this up. You have like your general Dow Jones type companies, right? Like Ford Motors, like things that actually keep everything moving in meat space. And then you have like your NASDAQ, like your Mag 7 companies. So like the really big things that have a lot of usage and there's like some speculation on, but like they generally make a bunch of money as well. And then you have like Silicon Valley, which is like the ultra speculative, there's a lot of things that might be zero, but there's a lot of things that literally might change the world and become the most important company in the world in like, 5 years or less. And so it encapsulates, like, there's a lot of things like that in crypto, right? Like Curve, on the day of recording, like Curve just tweeted off and announced that they're going to be on Monad on day one, right? Like Curve to me is like it's like a perfect Dow Jones project, like for crypto, right? Like it's your classic stable swap, been around forever.
It's like Costco. You just get good deals, wholesale good deals.
100%. So like you have your curves, you have your stable swaps. There's going to be a lot of payments. You get like your classic DeFi protocols, Uniswap, you name it. And then you have kind of like the NASDAQ or Mag 7 side, which you can think of as like Kuru Exchange, right? It, on day one at least will likely be the central order book on Monad with like a lot of the volume. There's, Drake and Purple, which are perp stexes, which will be live on Monad. Like those are kind of like key staples that people expect in a mature ecosystem that will be there. And then the Silicon Valley side, that's where things get interesting. I think Solana has done a really good job of attracting people that have that kind of on-chain Silicon Valley energy of like, I'm going to try new things. This hasn't been done before. It might not work, but I'm going to try it anyways. And so that is almost like speculation style economy at the moment. I think we have some pretty good efforts and team members focused on that side of things as well. But yeah, I think, from our side, is Monad, like from on the tech front, is Monad censorship resistant and scalable and secure? Like those are hands down the most important things. There's also some cool new tricks that is coming on the tech side as well that I'm not going to talk about, but James Hunsaker, one of the co-founders of Monad, has recently alluded to on Twitter. So very excited to see what that kind of leapfrog tech improvement looks like. You have a thriving on-chain economy. If anyone wants to swap, do a large swap of like wrapped Bitcoin into USDC, the most efficient place to do that should be on Monad. So I would expect a lot of volume to actually be flowing in Monad as the backend for the majority of very large trades that are happening in crypto. And then I would love to see the majority of kind of new era speculative or like true invention style things happening on chain. Monad starting to be the hub for that. I don't think 3 months from now that like, oh yeah, Monad will just be the place for that. Like clearly there's a lot of work that needs to be done to get there. But I do think that that is like a pretty accurate North Star. Everything else, to me, all of the other good byproducts that people talk about in crypto basically fall from having really good technology and a really good on-chain GDP, or at least bare minimum line of sight to get there.
Jack, I guess same question to you, and yeah, I totally agree. I think that's one of the favorite metrics I use when I write about the Solana report and show just like how massive and expansive the chain GDP. But yeah, same question to you, Jack. What does success look like to you?
Yeah, I mean, generally pretty aligned. I think a lot of the classic metrics, right, of like, all right, what kind of TVL do you have? How much revenue is the chain actually making? Are we filling this block space? Are all important. Already covered that, so I won't dive in and give my whole spiel on it. But I think I had an interesting question from an app team the other day, which was like, so what is your chain for? Like, we know Solana is internet capital markets, and I thought it was really interesting because like generally narratives are backfit. People think that like Solana declared themselves the internet capital markets chain and then everyone built all this stuff. But it's usually they built a lot of different things. There's also DeFi on Solana. It just doesn't get that much love. But so I think it's really like there will be a lot of different approaches to building cool new stuff, and some of it hopefully takes off. So there could be a chance that there's just insane stablecoin volume in the first 3 months. And that's like the main use case to start is this is the fastest, cheapest way to move stables around. And it's just like being used mainly for payments. Or the DeFi is like much more efficient and fast. So people are just like crushing in the DeFi ecosystem. So I'm not exactly sure which one takes off first, but I also don't think we're confined to like only one of these things is going to be like, oh, it's just a payments chain now. I think that's the beauty of having a very scalable, decentralized, like general purpose L1 is all of these different things can live in one place. So you want to grow the GDP and then have a few different verticals that are like really taking a hold in, 3 to 6 months, and then it'll grow from there.
Yeah, I want to add on as well. Most people don't realize what Solana's kind of narrative or different personas and arcs over the years has been. But like very early on, it was basically like, oh yeah, Solana, they plug directly into FTX and they're fast. That was literally all it was. Oh, there's really easy access from FTX. And like maybe there's DeFi, like it could be the NASDAQ for crypto at some point. And then there were a bunch of NFT mints on Solana. It was like, oh, this is just me, like NFT chain. This is literally a chain for NFTs. Then NFTs started dying. And then the tech came out, people started building a couple cool new things on it. Again, it got fundamental analysis that it was strong. And then meme coins came out. And because it was very fast and cheap, people were like, oh, this is the meme coin chain actually. And like that narrative happened for, 12, 18 months. And then the internet capital markets thing came around. So it's like, to me, I agree with Jack. Everything is downstream from tech enabling new user experiences. And Solana was just the fastest, and Solana was the fastest chain that was also censorship resistant that people could use to do these things. And so they started doing them. And then after the narrative gets painted, so yeah, whatever the next thing is that very fast and censorship resistant chains are best equipped to do, I would love to see, Monad kind of in the ring there. I would also like to formally call out XRP. I think Monad is objectively a better replacement for Swift than XRP. We've literally just haven't had a couple of the conversations that, Brad Garlinghouse has had. But I don't see any reason that Monad should not surpass XRP and what XRP's vision is. I would love to see that happen in the near future.
Dylan, you want to ask that last question?
One maybe a couple. Just post mainnet. Well, what should we expect from the Monad team? Any other surprises potentially in play, or just things to look out for?
Yeah, I would say there's kind of 3 things that I think are the most important for our Monad side to form a thesis around or pay attention to. And I think one is that Monad, I truly believe, will be the endgame architecture for the EVM. Like it will always be the fastest, cheapest blockchain that is censorship resistant that exists. As other teams catch up on the tech side, Monad will continue to outperform. Like the engineering team is just too cracked, to be honest. So like the tech will always be in the lead. We know how to capture attention. So people will constantly be hearing about us, whether they want to or not, on the timeline for the foreseeable future. So we'll have the best tech. Everyone will hear about it. and we have Keone Han. And I think that he is just so, people do not realize how smart this guy is. Like the people in the room that we work with do. A lot of investors that I have talked to him do. But I think now that this is a public thing, people will be paying more attention. People are going to realize just how smart Keone Han is. And that is going to drive a lot of excitement. So whatever, Keone has a bunch of cool things lined up for post mainnet. I think there's going to be a combination of expected, which is like, high traction numbers, people, it's kind of like the first time you use Solana where you're like, oh, holy shit, like this is way better from what I've been doing on ETH mainnet or like trying to bridge to Cosmos. You're like, this is just infinitely better. I think a lot of people that are kind of EVM maxis are going to have that same experience, become Mainnet users, and then so we'll get pretty solid traction, and then about once a quarter have a pretty big trick up our sleeves to drop on the announcement side of things.
Nice. Yeah. As we're wrapping up here, I guess let's zoom out a little bit. What's been your favorite like meta so far this cycle? Do you guys still think we're going to be okay in the next 6 months? Are we bearish? Is this bear arc top? Are we topping? Like, what are your guys' thoughts there? And just like zooming out when you're on still keep it in check with what's going else outside the ecosystem.
I would say like short to midterm, maybe some chop. I still think long term up. I'm still a strong believer in the industry. Exciting things. I think the whole Futarchy meta is sick, and I actually big fan of it. I talked to a new team building something cool in that vein on Monad this week. Can't announce them yet, but I think that's a exciting new product that actually uses it in a pretty novel way. And honestly, I think this isn't necessarily something I've been like hot on, but I was onboarding my mom earlier, and I like couldn't believe how far we've come to where it's like pretty easy. Like just like downloading a wallet, stuff like, I don't know, like there's FOMO, which is also going to have Monad, by the way. You can literally just buy coins with Apple Pay. Like thinking back to 4 or 5 years ago where it's like download a wallet, Coinbase, onboard money, buy on Coinbase, send it out, go find the chain. If you're bridging in Cosmos, there's a 50% chance you're putting the wrong token into the void. Like just all of that UX it was so bad. So even getting to that point today and just seeing like, yeah, like I'll trench a little bit, usually tail Nay's calls and lose some money. But like, it's just insane how fast and easy everything is getting to use right now. So I'm looking forward to just, seeing that continually improve and get to the point where it's as easy as like using Venmo or using a sports betting app on Monad is the same user experience as like using DraftKings, right? Like, I think we're pretty close to that point of it is so easy to move money in and out of the system, to have a wallet, to have a profile. So yeah, I'm not going to say like generally consumer apps, but I think normal apps crypto apps feeling like normal apps is like a really promising direction for the industry right now.
Yeah, and I would add, I think prediction markets are a 0 to 1 thing. There's just like, it's the first time a lot of people can go, oh, I think there's an 80% chance of this happening, and then bet on it. And like that is an enormous sector on its own and is actually a huge top of funnel for the rest of things that crypto enables. So I think that will continue to grow and be huge. Payments is like, you are literally living under a rock if you do not think that stablecoins are going to 10x in the near term. It's just clear that payments are going to be dominated by crypto rails in the future. Equities on chain is another thing that's like, fairly exciting. I think that's also another, it's less obvious than payments, but it's like pretty clear that there's a lot of benefits to doing this. I've actually talked to a few companies that are considering going public with like native on-chain launch of their equity, which is pretty sweet. Perps clearly is like the front runner of this cycle as well. And then I think finally, internet capital markets, maybe not in like the current form and how people currently think about it, but like the ability for anyone with an internet connection to participate in fundraising behind ideas that they are excited about is huge. And I think that like that can actually not be overstated. There is like truly a paradigm shift that's going on right now where like if the system stayed the way that it was without crypto, without, public access to launches or to fundraising, like you get this like capitalist accelerationary era of like anyone that has money is just going to continue to make way more money and like everyone else ends up permanent underclass. Like that might happen anyways, but like
what if that was my tier?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you are. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think you end up like giving everyone in the world equal access to express their beliefs in the form of investment is like closer to a human right than most people see, and I think that will be very obvious in hindsight. So allowing people to invest in the things that they're excited about, gain exposure to their beliefs and ideas, I think is going to be an enormous reason why crypto is important for society as a whole moving forward. So I'm excited to see what the next step of internet capital markets look like on that side.
No, I love it. Some optimism to kind of end the show. But I guess last question. I know we're kind of at time, but I was going to ask, how's the year in review video coming? Are we still getting that? Have you started? I know we got like 2 months left before the end of the year. And how much of it is, how are you going to be able to show any other chain, or are you just going to make it all Monad?
Dude, I thought about this for the first time like a week ago. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like I have done this every year. It takes it truly takes a really long time. Like this is like, I don't know, 20 hours of work ballpark. Like it's like many weeks of multiple hour sessions in a row to do it. And like we're literally launching Monad. Like between now and end of year, there will be like 3 enormous announcements. Monad will go live, and we're kind of the tsunami of mainnet launch is going to happen. So I don't know where I'm going to squeeze out the time to do it. It makes me nervous. Like I'm genuinely anxious thinking about the pressure that's going to be like, dude, make the video, and I'm just not going to have time. So
just throw one of the old ones into Sora and be like, make this for 2025. Make no mistakes.
Make no mistakes. Make it viral.
If we get an updated version of the storming of the beach on Troy, that was my favorite. That was such a legendary clip right there. But yeah, maybe intern needs an intern for the year-end review video.
I gotta just sack up and do it, I think.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on, guys. Where should listeners go to learn more about Monad?
You should go and follow at internbrah, INTERNBRAH, for very good takes. No, at Monad is the best place. Twitter is always where we will break our news. I would turn on, I mean, if you're listening to this in November of 2025, just like I would turn on notifications. Like certainly some of the biggest news that's going to break in crypto for the year is going to happen from that account in the next few weeks. So yeah, pay tight attention to that. Check out some of the apps when we go live on Mainnet. It'll be good.
And if you go to monad.xyz on the old web browser, there's a ton of cool stuff on the website where you can learn how it works. You can see all the new apps. There's very well done documentation about pretty much everything you could ask about the chain. So that all lives on the website. If you're curious, want to dive in, that's where you should go.
Yep. Super excited for you guys. We're going to have go check out the Monad Momentum, guys, so you know what to do when TG happens and Mainnet comes out, and so you can go and play around with the ecosystem. I for sure will definitely be checking out all the apps there and pretty excited. But yeah, thank you guys for joining. As always, this is not financial advice. Do your own research. You can do your own research at monad.xyz and at Messari.io for everything in the ecosystem and everything Monad related. But thanks everyone. We'll see you guys soon.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Sweet.